probably around $4,000 before we stopped.
So you guys spent about $4,000 on this project, and
That's right.
Foregen wasn't welcoming of this idea.
That's right. They just figured that since we're not official spokesmen, then we should just stop talking about them.
Hello, Intactivists. Today I have a returning guest with me, Intact Anonymous. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing fine, Potts. Thanks for having us back.
Yo, so it's been a while since we talked. So what has been
Yeah.
going on with Intact Anonymous since last we talked?
Well, we were doing some outreach in YouTube and in Twitch, as you might remember, donating to streamers and having them talk about circumcision and Foregen on their streams with their audience. But there were two reasons why we had to stop. The first one was that we had a kind of like a cease and desist kind of notice informally, so we had to stop on that. And also there was eventually the idea that maybe we weren't reaching enough critical mass with it despite the donation. And the people would talk about it for a moment. The streamers would mention it, would mention the ills of circumcision and the solution being Foregen. And sometimes the audience would be receptive, sometimes they wouldn't, but it didn't get to the critical mass that we wanted. So I guess we were hoping for a more viral kind of like awakening of consciousness, maybe. And then we also got the cease and desist, so we just pretty much we had to let that go, and instead we started focusing more. Uh, since we're individual members in very different walks of life, different countries, we started focusing more on our own social circles, like reaching out to our friends, our families, and talk to them like in a more heart-to-heart conversation about the whole idea of intactivism, but mentioning mainly that circumcision is, something that is not right to do, and the disadvantages it causes, and take it from there depending on the person.
All right, so who gave you the cease and desist to stop promoting
Well,
Foregen?
we have a few people on the Forging server, and they had mentioned that the reception to our advertising was not very warm, and that we were, like going to get Forging in trouble because of it, and they weren't pleased with it. So we just figured, you know what, they just stop doing it, and it's better that way, I guess, for everyone involved. So we chose to stop.
Interesting. So when you say it wasn't very warm, what does that mean?
Well, they didn't appreciate that since we are not officially Forging, we're just a group of people that are not with any particular Intactivist group. We support them all equally, but we just are not official part of the staff or anything. And I guess us talking about it just didn't sit right with them, so we just figured we should stop.
Okay. So, but Fortune did reach out and tell you guys to stop.
Not directly, but we were told that they weren't very on board with the idea of it, that it looked like spam, that it looked like they thought that it looked like like they were forcing the idea on people. So even though they are actually like you can pay the streamers, to say things for a donation and interact with our audience about that. But we just figured, let's just not go there, and we just stopped.
Okay, so how much money did you guys put in on your project?
Oh man, that's hard to say because there was more than a few of us involved in it. I'll say probably around $4,000 before we stopped.
So you guys spent about $4,000 on this project, and
That's right.
Fortune wasn't welcoming of this idea.
That's right. They just figured that since we're not official spokesmen, then we should just stop talking about them like that, like dropping their name on streaming. So we just stopped.
Okay, so that's interesting. So there are other people recently actually that do go out and are not official with Fortune, and they're speaking out and telling people about Fortune and help Fortune and spread their company on their dime, especially. Would you have any advice for supporters like that?
Yeah, I guess they could be as neutral as possible. Don't get into politics, don't get into anything that deviates from, when you're talking about Fortune, to just say that they are attempting to regenerate the foreskin, and that's it. And yeah, I guess mention that you are not part of the staff. Mention that you don't speak really for them. All these disclaimers. It's kind of tricky to actually, because many of us do believe in the cause of Forging, and they want to spread the word, but you get all this red tape. For instance, we learned that within the Forging server there is a user who was spreading flyers. He's not part of the Forging staff, but he was making flyers for a Bitcoin conference, and he reached a lot of people. And even though the other supporters were very enthusiastic about the idea and all that, and even the guy mentioned, hey, maybe I could, maybe Forging could improve on the flyer that I'm making or whatever. The staff didn't even acknowledge that at all. Like, it was the supporters saying, hey, great job, because it was a very neutral flyer. It just mentioned Forging, it has the logo and what they're doing, and nothing, no, no, not a word of acknowledgement from the staff or anything. So I don't know. It's just tricky for supporters even to get out there and spread the word. It's just difficult.
So it seems that people are definitely going out of their way to go and spread Forgin
That's
and what
right.
they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it's almost like people are very excited about Forgin, but it's almost like the supporters are more excited about Forgin than the actual staff members are. Because is the staff at all doing any kind of advertising that you know of for their own company?
Well, we've learned that they are indeed posting sometimes on X, on Twitter, but that's it. They post the newsletters, but we personally don't see the level of engagement that, for instance, this supporter very recently had, like going out there in person and, like with his full name, his face on the real world, trying to make a difference for Forgen. We just don't see that from the staff. But I guess because they are busy with other stuff, who knows? But yeah, when it comes to outreach, they could be, especially now that the animal trials are over, they could be actually getting out there more and saying, hey, the human trials are coming soon. We're just done with the animal trials. This is what's happening. And, like, just get out there, because we think that they're gonna need more donations soon because of the coming human trials.
All right. So, do you trust Forgin to be effective at advertising?
I personally think that they could be doing better, but I mean, they're posting the newsletters, they are keeping their supporters somewhat informed of what's going on. They could do better, I believe personally that they could. Yeah.
Okay. So, because I feel like supporters are trying to pick up the slack almost of their advertising campaign, and because they desperately want Forgin to go ahead and work. Like,
Yeah, I
you had,
think many of us want that to happen. Yeah.
yeah, like even your group spent, $4,000 to make sure that the word got spread. And even this person passing out flyers to a Bitcoin conference is really trying. But it's almost like Forgin doesn't want to be held accountable for literally any kind of backlash that may happen. So do you think Forgin's just too scared to advertise?
I personally believe that it's what you said before, that they are, like, they fear any backlash to happen because they are doing something that is very delicate. It's a very, you know, the whole idea of the research behind all this, it's unprecedented, and anything that they gave like a bad press for, it can hamper their efforts a lot. So I kind of understand them being so cautious, but I mean, they being the official voice of Origin, I think they could do more with advertising, maybe posting every once in a while on Twitter, more than just the newsletters. There's ways to do it without being controversial, just announcing what you're doing. They could just get out there more, and they being the official face of Forging, then they could do more, because the supporters, as passionate as they are and dedicated to the cause as they are, they unfortunately they're not part of the staff, and there's always that unofficial tag on them all the time, and they have to like go around because they cannot really speak for them as such. So it makes it harder to get Forging out there. So yeah, I think they could do more while still being cautious.
So it's interesting because it sounds like Foregen's trying to actively limit freedom of speech while trying to run a company. Have Intact Anonymous, besides the cease and desist, have you guys had any issues with Foregen besides them asking you to stop?
Well, they didn't ask us personally to stop. We learned that from people that we have in the server, but and it was more like a reaction that they had towards what we were doing. It wasn't like, oh, we need to stop them. It was more like we don't like what they're doing, so we just figured, oh, you know what, it's fine. Let's just. We didn't receive a cease and desist notice as such. It was mostly what we gathered from the reception that our efforts got in the group in the server, I mean. And we just figured, let's just stop because the staff wasn't pleased that much with what we were doing because we didn't, they told us,
How do you know the staff wasn't pleased if this is the reception off the server?
"Ah, you need to stop asking me those questions because then I have to say that it was a private thing, or what am I going to say there that told us that I have to mention him?
Just be honest.
I cannot because then they were gonna find me. But I'll just yeah, okay. uh okay.
God.
uh we learned that the reception in the server wasn't that good about what we were doing, and also uh we also received stop it for a moment.
So, can you tell me once again why exactly you stopped helping Foregen?
Yeah, so after a while of doing this, and we got the little comment about not being officially part of the staff, and having to tailor our message a little bit, we said, okay, sure, let's talk it out, and let's talk more about it. And the staff says, yeah, sure, let's program a meeting, but it never materialized. So we just figured, let's just stop before it goes south and somebody gets like angrier at it or whatever. So we just figured that we should stop instead of trying to push for something that they weren't fully on board with.
So, you stopped doing intactivism because you were afraid that the staff was going to get angry?
Fucking hell, pots, come on.
Answer.
Oh, right. What was the question again? So we were doing the outreach through the streamers, and we were on the process of coordinating with the staff a little. We were doing the outreach with the streamers, and we were on the process of coordinating with some of the Forgen staff to like get the smaller details ironed down about how we could promote Forgen without being part of. And we were actually coordinating a meeting with Ryan, and it fell through. Like we were setting a time, and it just didn't materialize. And some of our guys lost faith in that moment, and then coupled with the in that time in the delays of in the animal trials, they said, let's just not do it anymore. And they were the ones who had the most money, so we kind of like had to stop for a while on that. It's been on pause indefinitely.
So, why didn't it materialize this meeting?
Well, we were coordinating with Ryan about it, and then he couldn't make it to the meeting. He came up with an excuse, and he no, we were coordinating with Ryan for a meeting, and he didn't show up, and he didn't make any attempts to reschedule it. So we figured that he wasn't really that interested.
Okay, so whenever he didn't show up and people like dropped out of Intact Anonymous after,
No, they didn't drop out. We're still full numbers here, but they figured that they should not do the no donations like that for the streamers anymore promoting Forging, because they kind of like lost a little bit of faith in the process, and that was also coupled with the delay at that time of the animal trials. There was a lot of uncertainty back then. Now the animal trials are finished though, so at least that's good.
Oh, okay. So now that animal trials are complete, is Intact Anonymous going to start paying streamers again?
It's possible, but we might not mention Foregen as of now, because of what happened before, and recently because of the way that they have been, I wouldn't say acknowledging because it's not just the guy with the flyers, but also some guys sometimes post Twitter screenshots or links that talk about circumcision and intactivism, and they don't receive, like, the staff is kind of like indifferent to it. Like, they feel that the advertising should be done differently. We might get into talks about it again. Probably we'll start promoting not Forging specifically, but intactivism.
So you guys are done supporting Foregen then, right?
Well, now that the animal trials are finished, we gotta convince the guys who were investing the most money on it to maybe go back to maybe donating to Forging directly, or maybe doing the streaming again. But there's a lot of red tape going on, because of how they want the advertising to be done. So we're just gonna have to be very, if we ever get back to it, we have to be very, you know, walk around eggshells a little bit with that, so that it's done in the best interest for the cost.
So what is the red tape that you have to do when promoting them? And what's like the punishment? Like if you decide to not like listen to them.
Part of the red tape is that you cannot promote Forgen as much. Like, I don't know. I don't even know what they mean actually with that. Uh, we think part of the red tape means that you cannot bring any politics or anything but the Forgen mission into the advertising, which sometimes becomes difficult when you're talking about this kind of topics. Mention them by name, maybe, but that's it. And maybe not even mention that you want that they're looking for donors. Maybe just direct them to the website, and that's it. Like, it's a very limited approach of what you can actually say or do to
Uh,
promote them.
okay, so how would politics help you anyways in promoting Forging?
Politics can sometimes bring you very passionate people to donate, but at the same time, it will alienate a lot of people from donating. So I guess it's better to just sit them out on this one, because the topic by itself about circumcision is already very controversial. So yeah, that's why it can be a tricky thing to navigate around.
Okay, so were you ever doing politics? Like I'm confused. Like if you're out there on Twitch, what how would you make it political on Twitch?
I don't know. I don't even. While we were in Twitch and YouTube, we strayed very clear from any kind of political statement. But I guess this would apply more to talking about forging in real life with people, like actual people. Just don't mention any politics and just
Okay,
go from there.
so you mentioned that it would be hard for you guys to begin again because that's interesting because you're like, well, there's a lot of red tape that would have to get through. And the red tape that you mentioned was don't talk about politics, don't say you work for Forgin. That seems to really be it. I mean, it doesn't seem to be too limiting.
Yeah, I
Um,
would. Yeah, I would think the same, but at the same time, it's like I mean, we know there's been a history of people who are supporters officially and not, they have tried to promote Fortune in the past, and they just don't like it. It just seems that the general idea is that they don't like it. They don't like people, even their own supporters, to be talking about them, but at the same time, they don't do much themselves to get themselves out there. So yeah, it's tricky to just figure out exactly what can and cannot be done, or how. Like for instance, this last guy who tried the flyers in real life in the conference. I guess that's okay because they didn't say anything against it, but at the same time, they didn't approve it either specifically. So I don't know. Um, they didn't approve it specifically, so we don't know exactly what is it that we could do to promote them in a way that they would actually, approve of.
yeah, and you also probably don't know unless, this guy is a part of Intact Anonymous, like unless he like messaged Forgin and they were DMing because they could have DM'd him and said, "Hey, like don't actually do this." We may never know unless you guys know.
What? Promote
It's
what? Huh?
Oh, I said that with this person who was giving out flyers, we don't know if Foregen DM'd him and said, "Hey, actually, don't do this," or unless he's with one of you guys, he might be one of Intact Anonymous's
No,
guys.
no, he's not. And we don't know if actually that happened. We don't know if the Fortune staff actually contacted him privately. But then why do it privately? Why not say it out loud like with the rest of the supporters then?
Well, did they tell you to stop out loud, or was that private messaging?
Yeah, that was private messaging for one of
Okay,
us.
so if they did it for you privately, why would they go out and blast this dude publicly?
Because the difference is that this guy posted it on the actual server, posted his efforts, and we didn't do that directly. Like they learned from our efforts through a link or two, but it wasn't like as specific as this other guy. So yeah,
Okay, but
that's
you
I guess
put
that's
your
a
links
difference.
in the public chat though, right?
Yeah, we think there were a couple of links posted.
Okay, yeah, so that would be public. Okay. Well, Intact Anonymous, we are running out of time, but we do have a lot of fan questions to get through. So,
Okay.
first fan question is, can you provide the role your actions have played as it relates to a metric of circumcisions prevented?
Uh, Not really. Like I mentioned before, we had the Twitch and YouTube streamer thing before. We don't know how many of those people actually changed their minds, how many of them actually did, prevented a circumcision themselves. I can tell you that at least on my personal point of view, from the people that I talked to myself, we did prevent one. So I guess that's one. But apart from that, I cannot give you any numbers of that.
Okay. And what can Intactivists do to support you?
Well, they can start by supporting POTS because you're the one that's trying to bring all the interactivist groups together and try to be as neutral as possible in order to get the goals done. So I guess support you.
Thank you, Intact Anonymous. I appreciate it.
You're the one who's bringing all the interactivist groups together, trying to build bridges. And we are just a group of guys who we have our own group. We are in several interactivist groups, but we just get together and just we don't really have like an agenda per se as such. So it's fine. If you want to support us, you support us by supporting POTS, honestly.
Oh, I thank you. I appreciate that, Intact Anonymous. That's awesome. And where
Mhm.
can people keep up with you if they want to?
Well, we're just a group of guys just doing our own little thing. It's not really like a big group like Bloodstained Man or Foregen or POTS. So you know we're just doing our own thing, but by all means, they should follow you so they can get the most recent stuff going on in the Intactivist sphere. Honestly, that's the best way to at least keep in touch because we might appear here again another time. Who knows?
Yeah, and hopefully you'll be checking the comments for people talking to you as well. I can definitely, if you have any comments, I can definitely let you know. All right, awesome. Thank you, Intact Anonymous, for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
Okay, guys, that was Intact Anonymous. Let me know your thoughts by commenting down below. I will have my links down below and Intact Anonymous's links. Intact Anonymous may reply to you in the comments. Anyways, please give this a like to spread this video further, and also subscribe so you don't miss our other interviews we release every single week, and for much more Intactivist content. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!